Hello everyone, and welcome. I hope you are having a good day today. I am Mr. Andrew Vaughn, the school counselor here at Chester High School. It is so great to see you all here today for this presentation. First, I would like to make you aware of some expectations for our presentation today. They are as follows. Number one, we are to be respectful of one another and each other's differences. Number two, will be a safe zone where everyone is able to speak freely when asked a question. Number three, we will need to try our best to participate so that others may benefit from what we may say or do. Lastly, number four, we are to be respectful of others while they are speaking. Let us go ahead and get started on today's presentation. Today I want to discuss with you all the concept of self-control and how it can apply to your schoolwork. Before we begin, I would like to present you the overarching goal of today's lesson, which is to assist you, the student, in developing a higher level of self-control and the necessary skills for achieving goals that lead to lifelong learning. I believe that in order to have a good academic work ethic, one needs to have proper self-control. Additionally, I have two main objectives that we are going to try to achieve together. And they are to understand how levels of self-control are affecting you academically, and to learn how to use reasoning and logic to help develop self-control. I have two quick questions I want to share with you, and I will ask the same questions at the end of the lesson. You will notice I placed a piece of paper under your seats for you to respond by checking the boxes to the following questions, and would like for you all to return the papers at the end of the presentation. So the first one is, self-control in writing does not require organization or a set deadline. Is this always/almost always true for me? Is this sometimes true for me? Or is it never true for me? Please mark your answers now. The second question is, pleasure and fun sometimes keep me from getting work done. Is this not at all like me? Yes, but only slightly like me. Yes, sometimes this is like me. Yes, often this is like me. Yes, this is always like me. Please mark your answers now. Alright, we will return to those later. So, what is self-control? Anyone? Okay, self-control is our capacity to halt an impulse in order to respond appropriately. For example, we use self-control when we choose to eat carrots instead of those raspberry-filled donuts on the counter. We use self-control when we forgive someone instead of lashing out when someone does something bad. And we use self-control when we pay attention to our teachers and our school counselors when they are talking instead of playing on our phones. Why do we need self-control? Well, having a good ability to control our desires and impulses is important in achieving the goals we set for ourselves. While most may think that intelligence is the key factor for getting higher grades, research has found self-control to be a better predictor of good academic performance than intelligence. This is mostly because young people with high levels of self-control spend more time doing their homework, have higher attendance rates, and focus better in class, which in turn helps them have higher grades. On the other hand, lower levels of self-control can be linked to a variety of difficulties, including academic underachievement, unhealthy lifestyles, procrastination, and possible criminal activity. Now that we understand what self-control is and why it is important to us academically, what are some things that you think could be done to increase your self-control? Let's hear from some of you. Exactly. By using reasoning and logic, we can better develop our ability of self-control. You may be asking yourself, how do we use reasoning and logic to have better self-control? Well, self-control requires a level of organization to keep one's development of this skill clear and on track. This can be compared to writing a paper in which one must make sure the information is organized in a way that will promote clarity and understanding. One way we could use these components to increase our self-control is by participating in daily logic exercises, such as Sudoku puzzles or questions concerning sentence structure. In conclusion, students, there are many tools that can be used by school counselors to tell if and how students are using self-control and to what extent. And one of those tools is outcome data. Outcome data answers the question, so what are your findings? For our time together, the question we want to ask is why is it important to have good self-control? To find the answer to this question, a possible outcome data source we can look at is your attendance rates. This is because if you are not making school attendance one of your top priorities, then it is very possible a lack of self-control is the reason. I appreciate your attention today. I hope you have learned some vital information concerning how important self-control is in your life, especially in academics. Now, before we leave, since we have discussed self-control, I would like for you to grab that piece of paper and put another check mark by the answer you may now think is the answer, or maybe the same answer to the questions I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson. And I would like for you to return the paper before you leave. So, the first statement was, self-control in writing does not require organization or a set deadline. Always/almost always, sometimes, or never. Is your answer still the same? Or has this lesson changed your mind? The second statement was, pleasure and fun sometimes keep me from getting work done. How about this one? Not all like me? Yes, but only slightly like me. Yes, sometimes this is like me. Yes, often this is like me. Yes, this is always like me. Okay, thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions, I will be glad to try to answer them. As Napoleon Hill stated, self-control begins with the mastery of your thoughts. If you don't control what you think, you can't control what you do. Thank you. Hello, school counselors. I hope you are having a good day today. I am Mr. Andrew Vaughn, the school counselor at Chester High School. It is so great to have you here. Today I wanted to discuss with you the components of the classroom guidance lesson plan I just finished this week with my students, in hopes that you may be able to use it in your schools as well. We will cover the standards used in the lesson, a step-by-step lesson plan, how the presentation is developmentally appropriate, culturally sensitive, and aims at closing achievement gaps at your schools, and finally, how this guidance lesson shows differentiated instruction as well as some classroom management strategies. After my presentation, for those who would like to use my plan, I will be glad to send you an in-depth outline of the presentation. The lesson is on the topic of self-control and how it can apply to our students' academic achievement in a language arts context. I also have one to use with a mathematics context as well, if you are interested. First, in order to create a proper classroom lesson plan, it must have a foundation that includes our school counseling standards and the state's academic standards as well. The counseling standards covered in this presentation are M1, which states belief in the development of whole self, including a healthy balance of mental, social/emotional, and physical well-being. B-SMS2, which states demonstrates self-discipline and self-control. And the academic standard ELA.7.1.C, which states support claims with logical reasoning and relevant evidence using accurate, credible sources and demonstrating an understanding of the topic or text. The following is the step-by-step lesson plan for this presentation. First, you are to introduce yourself. Let them know that it's great to have them at the meeting. This can really help build rapport with your group of students. Next, you need to give your students some guidelines or expectations to adhere to while the lesson is being taught. I like to have my own ready, but also give the students the opportunity to offer some ideas themselves. After this, begin explaining the overarching goal, which for this lesson is to assist the student in the development of a higher level of self-control and the necessary skills for achieving goals that lead to lifelong learning. And any objectives that you think corresponds with the goal of the guidance lesson. It may be good to use a warm-up exercise following this to get to know your group that is only to be utilized in small group or classroom environments. Following the explanation of objectives, pre/post questions, and in this plan you must have two, will need to be given to your students. One must pertain to the topic of self-control, and the other an academic category such as language arts. Next, you will conduct the lesson by first explaining and teaching the students what self-control is and why it is important to have in our school lives. And second, explain how reasoning and logic can apply to self-control. I like to pose my lesson topics and questions to see what my students already understand. The last two steps in this plan are, first, you need to describe how counselors can use outcome data such as graduation rates, attendance rates, or GPAs to evaluate the level of self-control in our students. And second, to conclude the presentation by thanking them for attending, going over the two questions that were posed in the beginning of the lesson. Also, giving them an age-appropriate language arts handout can be helpful. Examples of this can be found at the link provided in this slide. A final note to your presentation is to end your time with an inspirational quote or phrase. So now that you understand my program, you probably have some questions concerning how the program is developmentally appropriate, culturally sensitive, and aimed at closing achievement gaps at your school. Well, the program is developmentally appropriate because it uses language, activities, and concepts that are meant for use with high school level students. Also, this program is culturally sensitive because it considers that some cultures or individuals may not value self-control and that they are more comfortable living that way. This lesson only asks the student to look at improving self-control skills for their future lives while not conflicting with their cultures in the process. Lastly, this program is aimed at closing achievement gaps because it uses data to determine which population groups are experiencing disparity. 3 existing data sources available to you that can aid in creating and implementing this program are South Carolina State Report Cards, self-assessments, and professional journals. One last point I want to discuss is this presentation's ability to use differentiated instruction and some classroom management strategies that can be employed during the lesson. This classroom guidance lesson uses differentiated instruction by matching curriculum materials, teacher, delivery style, classroom management strategies, and behavioral/learning expectations to the student's motivation and learning needs. Some classroom management strategies that can be and are incorporated in this lesson are rules and expectations, motivation, and the arrangement of the environment. Thank you all for listening to my presentation today, and I hope you have learned how to present this classroom guidance lesson. Remember, if you would like to use my plan, please do not hesitate to contact me. As Leon Brown stated, it all begins and ends in your mind. What you give power to has power over you, if you allow it. Thank you again and have a great day.